Hello there, toy collectors. My name is Kevin, aka Toying Around, and I am very excited to bring you this special review.
If anything, the Kim family, they're archetypes. Which is sad, but not always a bad thing.
I'm okay. I have one. Do you see all the name?
Let's try them. Let's still try.
Am I centered? Am I centered? Perfect. Hello there. My name is Kevin, aka Toying Around. I'm a toy collector, toy photographer, and sometimes toy reviewer. And you're watching Unboxing Thursdays. I have a huge pile of unopened toys, and this stream is a weekly push for me to unbox things, take them out, enjoy them, get rid of the boxes, so I can make some space and buy more toys. But this is a weekly wrap session with some of my friends in the collecting community. Maybe today we'll also be friends with after today's guest. But I'm really excited to speak with him. But we discuss all the different aspects of this hobby because everyone does very different things. But we all come together when it comes to enjoying toys that we buy. So whether you're tuning in live right now or catching the replay, later you're driving to work, doing the dishes, taking care of the family. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. If you like what's going on here in the channel, leave a comment, and please consider subscribing if you like what's going on. There's new content. Unboxing Thursdays happens every Thursday, every week. This July, I'm trying to do content 31 days, every day of July. So today's July 15th. The streak is still going strong, and I appreciate everyone who keeps coming back every day, watching my stupid face say words. But I appreciate you let everyone know, share. It all helps in the almighty YouTube algorithm. If you're watching on Twitch as well, thank you very much. That's twitch.tv/toyingaround. Last week had a great chat with Mr. Geeky Fresh, and next week I'll be chatting with some amazing toy photographers. You know them as Work More or Less and Nose Rain. And this guest today is not making me nervous at all. But today, we have the founder of Hybrid Design and Super7. You can follow him on Instagram at Brian Flynn and Super7. This is Mr. Brian Flynn. Brian, welcome. Oh, Yoko already said don't screw up the intro in the comments. You see how you said that she had nothing but nice things to say?
Yoko did have nothing but nice things. I think she's actually talking to me.
Oh, okay.
Don't screw up the intro, Brian. All right,
Brian, would you like an intro? I mean, I'm hoping people know if they don't know who you are. You're the founder of Super7. You guys make toys, apparel, collectibles, stuff like that. What would your intro be for yourself?
Let's see here. Formally, I guess if we're doing the formal, my name is Brian Flynn. I am, for most people know me as the founder of Super7, which started off as my little hobby magazine about collecting toys, specifically Japanese monster toys, but not completely limited to that. And over the last 20 years, it has evolved into what some people may know of now as an action figure company in a lot of ways, but we really just try to make cool stuff regardless of it just being toys. I don't know. I'm really bad at this. So
okay. Maybe that's why
we make stuff.
We got it. It's cool. We got the good part. It's awesome. You've mentioned in interviews before, Super7 may not be as well known because you don't have it in all the big retail stores and whatnot. So I've recently tried to learn more about Super7. So I think it's super cool. You said it started off as a magazine.
Yes.
How do you make that jump from magazine to toys?
Well, so how it started, if we really, I'll try to keep this short, which is Yoko will comment in any minute now, like Brian can't keep anything short.
Well, first of all, no, there's no need to abridge any of it.
I'm just making fun of Yoko at this point.
Right, but I think we've also given her enough attention for now. I have a stream with her every Monday and we talk Star Wars. So she gives me enough, she heckles me like live, face to face. So I think we're good for now.
All right. So we'll stay away from that. Now, I obviously collecting toys. I started in 1991. I went back and wanted to find my original Star Wars toys, then my Shogun Warriors, and
Cool.
It all snowballed into buying and collecting every vintage line that I had when I was a kid. At that time, that is right when Action Figure News and Toy Review came out.
Okay.
So I think that came out in 1990. So when I started collecting toys, issues 3 and issue 4 were out. And so it was this little magazine about collecting American toys. And at that time, the most rare Star Wars figure you could find, according to them, was Anakin Skywalker, which was clearly completely incorrect. But it was the beginning of people trying to start documenting and learning and quantifying what was made in the past for action figures that had been done for tin toy collectors, which was the generation before me, but never action figure collectors. So fast forward going through that, getting exposed to wanting Shogun Warriors again, which I had a few as a kid and kids down the street had. And in 1991 was also when they started making the Bandai Godzilla vinyls again in Japan. And there was a store in San Antonio that was carrying some of those. So I got sucked into Japanese toys alongside action figures. And
that's cool.
I luckily got to travel a bunch, especially for work when I was working at Nike, to Japan. And I if I'm going backwards, very quickly, it was easy to finish my Star Wars collection. There's only a finite amount of figures. There's 92 of them. You check them off the list, Took me forever to get a Monomon, but beyond that, it was, they were $5, $2 each at that time. It was not hard to finish. Japanese toys at the other side was very, very opaque and very difficult. There aren't that many in the States. They're hard to bump into. When you bump into them, people don't know what they are. And you start going to Japan, and it's the same thing over in Japan, where tin toy collectors are really defined. New school collectors are buying die-cast.
Okay.
That was the premium toy in Japan when they were kids. And the vinyl toy figures, which is what I was really excited about, were the trash. Those were the cheap toys. So a kid growing up might have 25 vinyl figures and 3 die-cast, and his die-cast were his most prized possession.
Right.
So as that generation of collecting came into being in Japan, they all rushed to die-cast. And the vinyls were trash. And me being not growing up with that, I would go into shops in Japan and just see these piles of these ridiculous vinyls in all these crazy colors because there's no QC. You run out of a color, change the color. You run out of a thing, who cares? So I would buy anything and everything I could find because they were $10 each, $20 each sometimes, to the point where I would go to stores in Japan and I'd buy $300 worth of vinyl, and shop owners would be literally stop, don't buy this. I've seen you come in here before and spend a bunch of money on vinyl toys. You're buying garbage. Buy this nice GA01 die-cast Mazinga because this is quality. And I was like, I like those toys and I have an appreciation for those toys a lot. But there was something about vinyl monsters and kaiju that I just loved. The way the sculpting and the design of the character was distorted to fit the medium it was manufactured in, the liberties they took with the design of the character, the liberties they took with the coloration of the character. And I'm also not hung up on knowing a lot of the shows. I knew some of the shows, but not a ton of them. So I wasn't hung up on whether it was a good show or not. The analogy I make is I got ridiculed by a friend in Japan once for asking about a bunch of Tiger 7 variants. And he was like, no one cares about Tiger 7 but you. And it was the equivalent of me asking him about so I really want to know about Dukes of Hazzard. Tell me what variations there are on Boss Hogg. It's no, nobody cares about that. Why do you care? So over the years, I amassed this really, really large collection of vinyl figures because no one in Japan really cared about them. So I had a decade run where I was the only guy going to Japan and buying vinyl, you know, a lot of vinyl, and getting to know shop owners. So when we go back to like 2000, there was a book that came out on Chronicle Books called So Crazy Japanese Toys that my friend Jimbo Madison did. And that book was half of my collection, parts of it photographed, and half my friend Mark Nagata's. That book was pretty popular. They said, hey, we want to do another book. Jimbo said, I don't have time for a book. I said, I don't have time for a book. Mark said he didn't have time for a book. But I said, what I do have time for is making a fanzine, which growing up in punk rock and skateboarding, that was how you got the news out. So instead, I made essentially what would have been a photocopied fanzine about collecting Japanese toys and talking about weird Godzilla monsters like Hedorah or whatever. But because I was a working professional designer, and it was the advent of digital photography, I could actually do the back-end pre-press myself. I could take 4x6 300 PPI images, and I could make it look like a real magazine. And it was never designed to be popular. It was designed to be a weird little magazine talking about obscure monster toys.
Right.
But surprisingly, it did get popular. And then from the very first magazine, we tried to emulate the experience of buying Japanese toy magazines, which is they included a coupon you had to physically cut out of the magazine for a mail-in figure if you wanted to get it. So we did that with a Japanese toy company, with actually two, one with Bare Model and one with M1, where you had to cut a coupon out of our magazine and send us $75, and then you got this limited figure. And so that was really fun for us. But when we started designing figures or talking about repaints, generally speaking, the repaints that were happening in Japan were always very reverential, meaning we're going to recolor Godzilla, but I will make it match the 1955 blue or the 1964 or the Marathon this or the Hawaii paint that. They were all very literal interpretations. And for me, I would start recoloring figures and be like, okay, I want Hedorah the Smog Monster, but I want it in clear orange with red and yellow highlights. And they'd be like, why? And he goes, because it looks fucking crazy. It looks so cool. We'll call it Meltdown Hedorah. And they're like, you know, it doesn't make logical sense, because I'm not coming from it from the same thing of like, I know who Hedorah is, but I'm not married to the history of this particular character. Right. I'm married to the aesthetics of the character. I'm buying these toys because of the way they look and feel, less because I've grown up with the movies. And so we started making all these weird recolors that then became very, very popular because they were very weird and different and unusual. And then that sort of kickstarted us. So this is the part where I finally catch up quickly. So those
sort of like, was it popular here or here in like North America, US, or like overseas as well? Awesome.
In Japan.
That's so cool.
That then led from doing recolors to designing our own sculpts for Godzilla toys and for other manufacturers, that then led to creating our own characters for other manufacturers, then making our own toys over there, and eventually getting to the point here in the States to being able to get licenses to make our own toys from here in the States. And that really happened because of Star Wars, ironically enough. When we opened the second iteration of the store, which is still in most of our stores, we made this Victorian flocked wallpaper of the store that it's all the dead characters in Star Wars. It's this Victorian motif.
Oh, I think I've Googled that before.
Yeah. And so that, my friend Shane Turgeon came down from Canada. He's like, oh, you should talk to my friend Steve about that. He'd love that. And of course, he's talking about Sansweet, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, I just want to meet Steve Sansweet, much less like, really, I can talk to him. And then Steve Sansweet introduced us to the head of licensing at Lucasfilm at that time. And that was the guy that had given Medicom the license to make Kubrick's. And so when we showed him the toys, what he were doing, he was like, oh, I didn't know there was an American company that was making this sort of high-end boutique toys like they did in Japan. What do you guys want to do with Star Wars? And obviously Hasbro owns the master toy license. So we had to do something expensive and out of scale. So that's why we came back all the way to the beginning and did a Stormtrooper Shogun Warrior.
Right.
Super Shogun Stormtrooper. And so that was the first time we actually got a US license to make a toy outside of Japan. And that's
And it was Star Wars.
And it was Star Wars. Then that was successful. And then that then led into, when that was done, we were like, well, we can spend another 2 years to try to make Boba Fett. And I was like, but you know what I always wanted was those alien figures, those that were on the cover of Action Figure News and Toy Review in the early 90s. And so then we sought out the alien license, sought out the prototypes, and were able to make the alien line. And then from that point, that's when really, like, as people that know what Super 7 is now, that's when it really starts, when the reaction figure line starts to present.
I think that's really cool. It kind of reflects how, to me, from what I see, like how you make toys now. It's like, I'm just going to make them how I want something to be, and something that you wanted in your collection, how you want it to look, right? And it's, you know, that's why you started the company.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing where it's sort of tricky because, you know, if you try to make something for everyone, you're going to end up with beige. I always say you end up with beige computers. You don't end up with iMacs. You know, you try to find the common thread for everyone, and all of a sudden there's no sharp edges to the design anymore. It just gets muted. And the reality is I can't make everything for everybody. It's impossible. So I'm going to make the best version that I can make for what I would like to have on my shelf. And that does mean, hopefully, that there are some people that like it, but that does also mean that there's going to be some people that don't like it. But that's okay. It's okay that not everybody likes what I make. And I'm not trying to make something for everyone. I know there's frustration for people who want something really close to what I'm doing, but not quite. It's almost more painful sometimes, but there's only so much I can do. And I don't know. I feel sort of apologetic about it, but at the same time, it's like I can only make so many toys, and if I can only, and I don't know how long this is going to go, so I'm going to make all the stuff I want to make, and hopefully it's something you want too. And if it's not, then there's a lot of other companies making really wonderful toys out there.
Thank you.
I'd like to buy their toys.
Thank you. I don't know if you feel like you can comment on it as the head of a company, but I feel like sometimes, you know, there's a lot of, you know, I don't like this toy. I'm sure you hear it all the time because there's no double knees, double this, double that.
Oh, the double knee, knee articulation, double elbow articulation is one that we get a lot, because there are people that to them is the exciting part about the toy.
It has to have it.
That's what makes it interesting to me. The more articulation, the better. And that's where you get into something like a Fig Arts figure or whatever. And it's like, there's a place and a person for that. I happen to be a person that is like, you know, same thing with an arm, 90 or 100, whatever. That's enough articulation for me. I don't need to get a full like 150 degrees, because in doing so, I lose too much other elements of what the toy is or what the sculpt is. So it's a fine line. And, you know, there's going to, and that same thing, there's some people that really like it. But if you like that double jointed knee, double jointed elbow, there are companies that are making that, and they're making it wonderfully. And there's some that are even going beyond that. And those are great things. Yeah. And I think it's just a difference of what you want out of your figure. I want more, I hate to say more plastic because that makes it sound wrong, but I want more nostalgia. I want that kick in the face that says, oh, you feel like you're 10 years old again. Where when I look at something that has, you know, 17 cut up sections so it can twist and turn into a lot of great poses, that may look great in a photo, but I don't get that same feeling when it's on my shelf.
I just think, you know, when a lot of people get upset over, you know, your toys not having this, not having that, if the head of this brand can be like, you know what, it's not made for everyone. If it's not for you, like you just said, there are a lot of awesome brands out there.
I think everybody always wants to try to pit us like it's some sort of war.
Like it has to be that, but you know, somebody else is, you know, doing something different.
And I think that's it. It's like, if you like that, you know, Randy from NECA is making beautiful toys. You you can get that from NECA, or you can go get a more articulated figure with cloth cape from Mezco, or you can go to Hot Toys for this, or and Mafex for this. Like there's so many places. Like I'm not trying to beat somebody. I'm just trying to make my thing over here in the corner. We didn't expect to get the size we are now. That was never the plan. We just liked making toys, and luckily other people enjoy what we're making. So
yeah. Well, that metaphorical kick in the face, I definitely got that from your Ninja Turtles Ultimates.
Yeah.
It's just taking that childhood toy of mine, like right out of the box, but with updated articulation and like all of that stuff. That sold me right away. It was awesome.
and that's that fine line you're walking. So for me, we've articulated like that thing. It's like it's got articulated elbows and knees. You see some joints in there, but I'm trying to hide them in the sculpt as much as possible, so you feel as much of the toy as possible. There's another guy that's right next to it going, you articulated you updated the articulation, but you could have gone further. But for me, if I go further, I start to break down the feeling of that figure, and I start to see function more than I see figure. And that's a push and a pull. And I'm never going to convince the double jointed guy that I'm right. And, but it's also okay, because everybody collects things for their own reasons and has their own desires for it. I mean, Lord knows, outside of the group that we all talk to each other online or here and there, all the other people in our life that you run into, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your coworkers, most of them have no idea what you're talking about or care about any of the things that you're talking about. We're all in the weird corner by ourselves going like, oh, look at all my, collecting toys and doing all this shit. Like, my fiance. It's not for everyone. So it's okay. I'm okay.
Speaking of the toys that we collect, unboxing Thursdays, I feel like people are getting anxious to see, we've talked about the kind of stuff you're interested, but what you have to open. So what have you got? What have you got for us?
All right, I got 3 different things. So the first one I had to take out of the big box, or otherwise I wouldn't have even got it in here, but it's right in line with all of our stories. So this one is the Nuevo Robot Nacaral. So this is the Spanish, is in Spain.
Fuego.
Versions of the Shogun Warriors, which are changed. So this one just came in, and I didn't get to finish opening it up and everything, but they are different in a lot of ways to the US Shogun Warriors. So in this case, I'm doing backwards with my fingers here. So there you go. In the US one, the head is silver and blue with lots of paint. In the Spanish one, it is cast in dark blue plastic and has a sticker. The legs are actually Mazinga's legs. Both the arms fire instead of a single arm fire. So it's actually a completely different toy. And plus they molded it off the old one. So it's like a second generation casting. But I've been slowly working through all the foreign issues of the jumbo supersize figures for Shogun Warriors. So
that's awesome.
There you go. The Nuevo Robot Nacaral. Nacaral is the series, actually, the company. And Nuevo Robot is Shogun, what would be Shogun Warriors, but their version of it.
And what year is that from?
This one is from 78 or 79. They're about a year later than the American Shogun Warriors.
That just looks awesome. And also the print, the box in Spanish is pretty cool.
Yeah, we could do get Guy King's horns up there. But it's that same thing. Like most people don't care, but I'm like, no, the face is a different color. I must have it. I mean, and the fact that the box is beat up is okay to me. Like I'm all right with that. That tells me, it shows the patina of age. It's been here. It's been around.
Yeah.
And so there you go.
Well, we were egged on to get some toys opened by someone in the chat which leads me to my first real question. And I've put this one first because I believe it needs to be addressed. How unhealthy is Kyle Wadaga's obsession with Ghost?
I don't know if it's unhealthy because I haven't seen a side effect that tells me it's not unhealthy, but it's deep. Like that river right there, there's anglerfish at the bottom of it. Like it's deep. It goes on forever. And but like I haven't seen the negative side effect of it yet, but I think he's planned out 700. I made the joke the other day and he corrected me. He's planned out 666 more versions of Ghost to be released.
Yeah.
Here we go.
If you said 700, it was definitely a missed opportunity to
it was. And I did that the other day. I said, you've got like 700 more planned. And he was like, Brian, 666.
That's Kyle right there with the hands up.
I was like, there, check. I've been put in my place, Kyle. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Shout outs to everyone who's watching right now. Thank you all for being here. Shout outs to the Butter Nation. Brian, if people are tagging you on Instagram for tonight and there's weird butter related GIFs and pictures, don't worry about it. That's just the people watching. They're awesome. But happy to have everyone here. I don't have time to shout everyone out. I have this is the Tmnt Ultimates Bebop.
Oh man, that thing's a brick.
It is ginormous, and I believe Wave 3 is coming soon.
Wave 3 is 2/3 in the warehouse, 1/3 sitting on a boat in the Oakland port for Lord knows how long.
Oh boy!
Literally three. Well, I said 2/3, but I would be remiss at 75%. So 3 of the 4 figures are all in our warehouse, and the 4th figure is just sitting on a boat, and it has been for like 2 weeks. So it should be ready to go any day now. Oh, and then you got Toxie too.
I'm gonna Toxie and a Mutagen Man.
That Mutagen Man turned out so great. That said, that Bebop is so big and so heavy. If you haven't opened it yet, though, I can't really ruin the surprise for you.
No, these haven't been. I mean, I could feel the heft.
Wait till you open that figure. It's amazing.
All right, so Bebop first.
And I'm not saying that as the guy that made it. I'm saying as the guy that, like, even when I opened it, I'm like, wow, we pulled it off. You know.
Yoko is shouting, other way around, Brian.
Other way around. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. Okay, well.
She want me to just turn around and ignore you?
I honestly wouldn't put it past her to say a 1 is in the warehouse, 3 are stuck. I don't know.
I think it 1 has been in the warehouse for over a month. We got a couple containers last week, so Yoko and I may not. I may have some advanced information on Yoko. I believe that we're down to 1 figure left that we're waiting for. So
awesome. So I'm gonna get to
we're
that.
gonna align when all 4 come together, and that's when Yoko and I will be on the same page.
I've done some stuff with Kyle. I did an interview with him during Power Morphicon. I did an interview with him for Power Rangers Wave 1. To talk about that. And one of the things I always mention is the amount of boxes that you get per figure. It's like every time I open one, it feels like I've opened 4 things. So if I open 3 Ultimates today, there's about, you have your shipper, your sleeve, outer, inner case. It's like 12 boxes, but it's also gorgeously done.
That's the goal. Like, I'm not, I don't know, there's what's the way to word it, but it's like, it needs to be, it should live up to the expectations. When you've been waiting that long for it, it shouldn't be a letdown. I want it to be everything you hope for and more.
Well, I think we're about to find out. Well, what else have you got to open? I don't know if you want to do it.
I've got a dumb one and then one that actually I want to spend some time on. So
when you mentioned before we started that you didn't want to open something that was yours. I thought you meant like you were opening somebody else's toys or somebody from the office, and then I'm like, oh right, he owns a toy company.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel like opening a Super 7 toy here. I don't know, it feels a little bit crass. We're here to talk about what we collect and everything. And of course, I collect what we make, but I think people are probably a little, if I'm just opening up the things that they expect, I don't think that that's going to, then why are they paying attention? Well, this is something different than I thought it was.
Holy.
So this is for my daughter, and this is going to be hilarious. So this is for my daughter, Mabel from Gravity Falls. And there's going to be a shitload of people right now like, how dare you buy a pop? And I'm like, it's for a 12-year-old. Like, come on. Like, get over it. So that one's for my daughter.
Are you going to open it for her?
No,
or you weren't supposed to open that?
I thought it was I thought that box was my super nerdy box, which is I bought on, there's a guy on eBay that makes clear figure stands for vintage Star Wars where you can get them where they say Kenner or Lily Letty or PBP or Poke, you know, so you can have all your international Star Wars figures like delineated on your shelf. And I thought that was the box that had 50 Lily Letty stands and 25 PBP stands. So I could.
That's not nerdy at all, by the way.
When you feel the need that you have to actually, you can't just simply have them on the shelf. You know, you have to actually have stands that like identify them so they can be quantified versus the original Kenner figures. That's sort of a level of nerdery that I'm into.
What if I told you that I would do that if I felt the need for those stands because I have my own 3D printers and I would have done it myself? Then like, is that almost the same level?
That's almost the same level. Almost the same level. I just think it's kind of funny that it's not enough to have them. That I feel like I have to actually like give them their own little stand and name for them.
This thing is incredibly heavy, and I don't even know where to begin. So the thing that I loved about Ultimates Turtles, obviously they look like the toys that I played with as a child, but the details, the little callbacks that's thrown in, you know, the shredder with the eyebrows on the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they actually made that into a thing. The actual weapons on the sprue, like it. The moment I saw that, it was that kick in the my nostalgia's nuts that you mentioned.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for me when we were really talking about how we were going to approach the Turtles. I was like, you can't not have the unpainted weapons in the rack. Like that was so unique and so much part of the experience for Turtles. I was like, we have to go there. And then it's like, well, then we have to make all the weapons twice because you also have to have them painted. And it's like, yeah, you do. So let's do it. But yeah, the weapons rack is the coolest part of these toys still for me, which is pretty cool.
And you know, I appreciate, and I'll have some friends who appreciate too, who missed out on Wave on the Turtles the first time around. And even though 3 or 4 are not out yet, you're like, hey, we're gonna re-release all the Turtles. So everyone who missed it, you know, you have a chance to get it. I've seen some of your interviews. You know, your philosophy is, I'm not trying to make stuff that you can't get. Like I'm trying to make it so, you know what, you should say it. I mean,
the basic gist of it is that it's not my job to keep you from buying toys from me, and it's not my job to make this hard for you. The reality is, you know, we're talking about a very small group of people. While we all collectively personally know a lot of other toy collectors, it's because that's what we do. Outside of that, the Venn diagram of adults that play and buy with this level of toys is very small. So there's a very finite group of people looking for these things. And as anybody with any of these toy lines will know, is if we do basic math and just say it's 1,000 people that want that toy. If you make 1,020, it really doesn't matter what you price those 20 at. They're never going to sell. because there's only 1,000 people looking for them. So part of that also is, if we have to guess how many we make, we might not make enough. We might make too many. If we don't make enough, then it becomes expensive. The secondary market starts moving and everybody gets grumpy because they couldn't get it. It sold out in 2 minutes. The guy stole it off the shelf in front of me. There's a flipper on eBay, whatever it may be. If I make too many, then you've invested $45, $55 in a toy from me, and a year from now, it's only worth 30 bucks. I don't want you to do that either. If you've bought something from me at 55 bucks, it needs to always be worth 55 bucks, if not more. So in doing the pre-orders, that sort of allows us to get rid of both of those scenarios. We make only the number that are needed, no more, no extra, and everybody gets a chance to buy one. The catch, of course, is that you have to wait for it. But in doing so, what's happened with Turtles, for example, is that because we're a small company, you get to a year down the road, and all these people that didn't know it existed all of a sudden get excited about it and find out about it. And then now all of a sudden, if you want to get into collecting turtles, it's going to cost you $200 a figure. That's not fun either. So we're just like, we'll make them available again. We'll make a run of them again. And if you want to order them, we'll make some more. It's not my job to make every figure again, but I'm also trying to make it so you can collect my toys. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, I hate to say easy, but it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable.
That's not a bad thing. You don't have to preface it with I hate to say. It should be easy to
Well, then there's a whole bunch of people that will be like, then the expectation is, well, this figure was 55 and now it's 65 on the secondary market, so I want you to remake it so I can save 10 bucks. And it's like, well, that's not my job either.
I just want really quick for everyone, in case you haven't seen a Bebop, that's how large it is next to a Ultimates Leonardo.
Yeah, that figure is huge and heavy.
Salvador Sandoval, thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, Super7. I'm assuming that's for you, Brian. Please make Diamond Toys Schwarzenegger Commando figures.
I assume he's meaning Commando the movie, but Diamond Toys, is that meaning through previews or Diamond Select?
I'm not sure. Diamond Toys part was threw me off. But thank you for the super chat. Thank you for tuning in, Salvador. So part of your company motto, was it like your mantra, like no one made what we wanted, so we made it ourselves? Hold on, Let me focus on you because this is your how has that? I mean, we've seen it from your story that you told us. It's like that's literally what happened. You went and made something in a colorway that you wanted for yourself. Does that motto help you when you hear people say stuff like, I don't like it for this reason or that reason? Is it easier to just shrug it off and be like, hey, maybe there's something for you down the line, or is that just, does that help having that motto there?
I mean, I think the motto is a very good distillation of what got us here. I don't want to be dismissive of people or dismissive of their concerns. What I always tell people, because there's definitely people, in myself at times, that get frustrated with, the negativity that can happen at times around some of our product, or the negativity people like to throw at it. But the real reason I always say is like, those people are only mad because they care. Right. They wanted something so badly and you didn't deliver, and I'm angry at you. And which is valid, and I don't want to be dismissive of it, but I also, I can't live my life trying to make somebody else happy. Super7 was never intended to become what it is, so I don't want to stop doing what's got us here, which is just make the best toys that we can make on the things that we want to have. And if it means that next year, all of a sudden, nobody cares about our toys anymore, and the company shrinks way back down or just goes back to a couple things a year, that's fine. That's great. we got to do it. We got to do our thing. We got our chance to play in the playground with this stuff. And there's never been a thing of like, how do we turn this into a business, or what is all this? It never started like that. So still to this day, while we need to be prudent about what we do, it's still with a certain amount of, I hate to say, you know, I'm not even finding the right word. It's not like we're paying attention to what people are asking us for, you know, because, you know, we listen, because sometimes people are right and we're wrong. But at the same time, you know, it's still very much, what do we want to have? And if that's not the version for everybody, that's okay.
That's cool. Well, what isn't being made right now based on that motto? What isn't being made right now that you want, or whatever you can say? Obviously,
oh man, there's so many places we haven't gone. Like, we haven't been able to. I mean, we just got into GI Joe today for everybody. I mean,
did that happen today?
That happened today.
Oh man.
You know, but we've been working on that for a long time. But like, GI Joe is one of those where there's so many things that haven't been made, and there's so many cool stuff to do that I can't wait to really get into the weeds on GI Joe. We've got a lot of really cuckoo stuff planned. But you know, if you're talking, I'm happy with a lot of the stuff we have, but you know, we still haven't gotten into Star Wars or Marvel or Shogun Warriors or Indiana Jones, or you know, there's so many places that we have not even touched yet that we could touch, where I can go, I know exactly what I would do. I know exactly what I want there. You know,
that's awesome. That's exciting, and also frightening to hear on behalf of my wallet and bank account. Because you know, the Disney stuff I'm really excited for, and that's not even here yet. The Ultimates.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but like, the Disney is a perfect example. Like, you tell somebody they have the Disney license, and the smart money and the business person will say, you make the most popular characters. You start making Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy, and as soon as we get the license, I was like, the first thing we are making
Prince John.
Prince fucking John. You know?
What is? Can you reveal what was the reasoning behind that? Is that your favorite movie? Is that your favorite character?
So as a kid, like I said, my parents were in the military, and we lived on Bitburg Air Force Base for 3.5 years in Bitburg. And so
shout outs Bitburg.
This is when I was 7, 8, and 9. And so they had like a daycare on the base that on Friday nights you could drop your kids in for a couple hours, and they would watch the kids, and while parents could go out to eat or do whatever. So if you got dropped off at the daycare on a Friday night, you'd get to play for a while, and then they would show a couple Super 8 movies, and then you went to lie down on a cot and went to sleep until your parents showed up. Of those Super 8 movies, one of them was the soccer match from Robin Hood. So I watched that soccer match from Robin Hood at least 20 or 30 times. You know, where Prince John's sucking on his thumb and doing everything. And sometimes we'd watch other parts of of Robin Hood, but mostly it was the soccer match. So as a kid, I just love that movie, and I love that scene, and I love that character. Like, he's my favorite character in there, because he's so, you know, pensive and rigid, and you don't know what he's doing, and he's always freaking out. Like, he was the most interesting. Robin Hood was just confident, stand up, dress up as a stork, win the archery prize, like no big deal. Like,
really,
Prince John was just so much more fascinating, because you never knew what was going to happen. Like, he was clearly on the edge of his own seat inside of himself at any given moment. And
that's awesome.
So when we got, same thing. So when we got into Disney, I was like, first wave, we're making Prince John. And it's not the smart move necessarily, but it's the one we want to make. Mm-hmm. So let's go make Prince John.
Totally respect that. Plus, I knew I was watching, and I'm like, if Prince John is in wave 1, Robin Hood has to be coming, and that's the one I've never really had a toy for. So, you know, the full stork costume, that's crazy. I'm very excited about that.
Well, and this is a perfect example of listening to the customer, though, as opposed to just forcing what we want on them. So like when we did Turtles, for example, which you've bought, which is great. Thank you very much. When we laid out the waves and first wave comes out and there's only one turtle in the wave, every toy collector out there was like, oh, this is great. I know they're going to make at least 4 waves because you've got to get all 4 turtles. And so spreading those characters out made everybody excited because we could, you know, from the beginning start pulling some more obscure characters in.
Right.
But the seemed to be like the Disney collector, their mentality seems to be the exact opposite, which was like, why am I buying Prince John if you don't have a Robin Hood? And so as we get into like wave 4 and on Disney, we'll switch the scenario to being like, okay, hey, here's a whole wave around a movie. Because that customer, the feedback we really got from them is we don't understand how you're rolling these toys out. This doesn't make sense to us because they're coming from a different point of view.
So I was like a general Disney customer, Disney fan noticing a Super 7 Ultimates Disney line and like they don't get like how the company works. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would I buy Prince John if I can't get a Robin Hood?
Right.
And I'm not going to bother. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. And so that's one of those things where you know, like I said, I don't want to be dismissive of the way other people think about our company.
Of course.
So in that regard, I go, oh, okay. Hey, this customer doesn't really understand. So instead of breaking up Robin Hood across 3 or 4 waves, I would, in the future, let's just put all the Robin Hood figures together. Like same thing, we've got Alice in Wonderland last wave. You had Alice and you had the Mad Hatter.
Yep.
You know, but we didn't have the Queen of Hearts in there. You know, we'll have the Queen of Hearts later. And it's like, oh, that customer, the feedback we continue to get from that customer is this doesn't, I have a hard time following. If you just put those together, then I'll buy the set. But if you break them up, I don't understand if I'm getting it or if I'm not getting it, or should I get it, or maybe I didn't order it the first time. So it's sort of a different mentality. So, you know, in that case, we are listening to them and going, okay, wave 4 forward, there'll be movie-centric themes, or, you know, figures will be paired up so that they make sense to that collector.
That's awesome. Again, another wave that another line that I'm really excited for. Big thank you to E Collectibles for the super chat. He says, Brian, what's the likelihood? I'm sure you got this a lot. Biker Mice from Mars. Thank you, E Collectibles, for your support. E Collectibles is actually where I bought my Bebop from. And earlier this week, they shipped it over really quick. Thank you. If you're in Canada, you're looking for a toy store that sells Super 7, other things, they have today's G.I. Joe pre-orders up there. They have the Ninja Turtles, Silverhawks, ecollectibles.ca. You can save 5% off your order with coupon code Toying Around. But yes, thank you. Look at that plug.
Biker Mice from Mars. That's one of there's a host of sort of like late 80s and early 90s licenses that we get asked about quite a lot. I would say that it's not imminent by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of those that we've talked about, but right now, being kind of transparent, like with the launch this year of both Power Rangers, now G.I. Joe, with Transformers and Disney, there's a lot of my time that's really just sped up to like, hey, I've got several years worth of plans to get out. And I really do think that there's only so many toys I can put out in a given month,
right,
before it's overkill, before it's too much. And so
for us or for you?
I think for everybody. I mean, and I say this in a way, like when we look at the lines that we have, I really try to understand, like, how much am I asking the collector to spend every month to collect this line?
Right.
And how often am I asking them to spend money? So, like,
I've just been eating Costco hot dogs like every day just to save money.
Yeah, it shouldn't be difficult and problem. It is, you know, these toys aren't cheap, but I'm not trying to like run as many of them down your throat as possible. It's like, let's pace it out, let's meter it out so that you have time to save and buy, and so that it's fun to do. If I make it so where every week you're chasing another variant, or it's hard to get exclusive here or whatever, then it takes the fun out of it, and that's not the goal for me.
Yeah, we don't want, like, sometimes it feels like there might be like a crushing weight of getting out there, making sure people don't beat you to the store to grab something ahead of time or something like that, making sure there's all of these new releases that you want to stay on top of. So it can get crazy sometimes. But so like you were in design, you said, and marketing for Nike?
So I went to art school because I didn't know what else I was going to do. I knew how to draw, but I knew I wasn't going to paint. But I went to college in '89, so that's what this is. Here we go. When I got there, my grandma actually was like, "You should take some what they called commercial art at that time. You should take some commercial art classes so you have something to fall back on." And when I got into commercial art, which is what's now people talk about as graphic design, I realized that it was like, oh wait, making skateboard graphics and punk rock record sleeves and laying out stuff on a page is a job. Like creating logos for your friend's band, that's a job.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, graphic design is what I've been doing all through high school. Like being the guy that kids came over and helped lay out their demo tape or whatever. And it was like, oh, that's graphic design. So I got a degree in graphic design. I graduated. I was employee number 7 in the Fossil Watches art department. When they first started, I started there. I worked there for 15 months and then got headhunted out of there to go to Nike. And I spent 5 years at Nike. I started out in their apparel design program. I designed the MLS logo for the soccer league and worked on the first launch jerseys for that. I did a very brief stint in footwear design, and then I designed Nike towns for the last couple years. So Berlin, London, Honolulu, San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, doing both the 2D and 3D space design for that. And then I left in 2000, moved down here to San Francisco and opened up Hybrid, which is my own design studio, retained Nike as a client, and then just kind of kept doing that. And then in my spare time, that's when I did the magazine.
You guys also do apparel at Super7. Is the Nike job, bless you, is the Nike job where that love for apparel comes from, to make your own? Or is that another thing like the toys? They didn't make the clothes that we wanted, so I'm gonna
a little bit. It's sort of a weird sort of thing. So obviously growing up in punk rock and skateboarding, t-shirts were a big deal. And when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, t-shirts are a big deal. That's really one of the main ways you can establish your personality in front of other people. It's one of the ways you identify yourself. They're very important. That's why people collect them these days. So when I went to Nike, it started out in apparel design and doing a lot of t-shirt graphics. It was sort of second nature to what, I had done in high school, like helping a friend's skate shop do a t-shirt, or a friend's band do a t-shirt, or anything else like that. And then in the late 90s, like 98, 99, and 2000, I would actually leave work on Friday, take a red eye to New York, and land at 7 a.m. New York time. And then all weekend, I would design streetwear collections.
Oh,
so
wow.
if you're old enough to remember like the first wave of New York streetwear, so I would do collections for Mecca, and Mecca USA was the one I did the most for, but also I did some work for Fat Farm and other stuff like that. And I would do those Saturday and Sunday, then fly back Sunday night and go back to work at Nike on Monday.
Wow. Did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was, it was weird because I wasn't really in the scene the same way, because I didn't hang. I was
you just had to leave right after?
It was the same. Well, everybody else was like they do it 5 days, they do it 7 days a week. They live there, they hang out, they do whatever. It's like I red eye, fly in Saturday morning, work all day Saturday, work all day Sunday, bail out, fly out at 5 o'clock on Sunday night, and that's it. I'm the weekend ninja that shows up, does a bunch of work, and leaves. So, yeah, it was very interesting. So after that, when I moved to San Francisco, I wasn't going to New York anymore. So I started my own little streetwear line that they carried at Union in New York before it was really part of the Supreme family. That was with Chris Gibbs was the buyer at that point. And I sold it a couple places here in the city. And then as Super7 started becoming a thing, it was like, oh, well, why am I making t-shirts under another brand over here? I'll just make the t-shirts under Super7 over here.
Of course.
That said, the t-shirts tend to take a back seat sometimes to making all the plastic, but we're trying to alleviate that problem. I
like it. A lot of new designs. You had a new video today where you just blew through a bunch of shirts. You're wearing a new one right now.
That's right. Just
are you putting in those designs yourself for the apparel?
What's that?
Are you designing the apparel yourself?
Sometimes. Most of the time, I'm not actually in the weeds of all. I'm directing it. I'm reviewing stuff, but and I might give people like, here's ideas that I have. But for the most part, at this point, we have a lot of people that work here, and I'm very interested in seeing their ideas. I'm not always interested in. It doesn't always have to be my idea. Because if it's just my idea, everybody's going to get bored real quickly. No different than Kyle talking to you about Power Rangers. Like, Kyle has a very specific point of view around Power Rangers, and I want that. I want Kyle's point of view. I don't want, and then I will take Kyle's point of view and contrast it with mine, but I don't want a generic point of view. I want a specific point of view.
And Kyle has done a lot of research. We do talk about Power Rangers a lot. Kyoto Films, thank you for the super chat, says, wow, Shogun Warriors Ultimates like the Bandai SRC figs without the die cast and actually scale together and have accessories would be amazing.
I don't disagree with you. Shogun Warriors are a really tricky license because technically the robots themselves are owned by lots of different licensors in Japan. They just went over there and just grabbed a bunch of random robots and threw them together and called them Shogun Warriors. So, like, Great Mazinger is Go Nagai. Rating is Toei. I think I'm blanking on it. Somebody's going to really get annoyed at me for not remembering exactly who owns all the different robots right now.
How dare you not remember?
Yeah, Get a Dragon is still Go Nagai as well. And Guy King, I believe, is also Go Nagai, but Rating is not, Daimos is not, and then obviously Godzilla was in Toho, so they're very disparate.
Right. Thank you everyone for the super chats and stuff. It's it's great that everyone's supporting and interacting with the channel. Brian's here to show us what he's got to collect. He's got his scalpel ready to operate.
I've got the box that I should have opened 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to feel very bad about it's taken this long. So hopefully they will forgive me. This is a new toy by LK Toys, which is Chris Lee and Matt Kaufenberg. I don't know if everybody knows who Chris Lee is. He is an illustrator, and Matt Kaufenberg is an illustrator. And they have this really cool new toy. They did themselves.
DS Refan says, any plans for big vinyl Godzilla or MMPR monsters? Well, you have MMPR Goldar.
We got some plans for this guy. I got your back. I got your back.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Here we go. So this is here, beautifully bubble wrapped and then tissued.
It's very secure.
This is the Joyriders Nebula 1. Hold on. So this is Matt
Whoa.
Kaufenberg, who many people might know as the illustrator of Astro Cat and some of the other books, and then Chris Lee, The Beast is Back. And they have a play school inspired vehicle and character set that they have made themselves. This is a complete independent project that they did.
Very retro.
It is. It's supposed to look like it rolled straight out of the 70s. And let's pull it out. So this is one of those things I've been looking to for a long time. And it's another one of those things that's really great because you're talking about people, once again, making the toy that they want. It's not something that somebody else is making for them. And so it's highly specific. And that's what is much more interesting to me. It's not like, oh, it kind of looks like somebody else's stuff. Like, this toy does not look like anybody else's toy on the planet. And that's the most interesting part to me.
Yeah, I think the moment you showed that box, I think my brain was trying to scan it. Like, what does it look like? What does it look like? Only thing I could think of was that the art style and the character style looks very, very throwback.
Right. So it's almost like if you took Weebles and everything and sort of did a designer toy of them, but this is all injected molded plastic. So plastic rolling wheels, everything, and then just the circular plugs, and you can put, there's a magnet. Oh, that's cool. There's a magnet in there, so they just snap into place. And then you've got a little camera here and a laser sword, not to be confused with a lightsaber. And they can go on adventures. And it's just, this is super cute, super whimsical, and it's just fun. There's no other way to describe it.
It looks like a really great display piece. It does look like fun. But where are the double elbows, Brian?
I'm
kidding.
There are no elbows, actually. But that's the thing. Like, this looks like you could have pulled it out of a play school lot that you found at a flea market or something, of like a space vehicle they made in 1974.
Yes.
But yet with their twist on it. And and then you take this is such a nice touch. You hear this? That's the magnet holding it in place. So there's a magnet, it feels like, in the bottom of his waist at the circular point.
Isn't that very satisfying feeling where it just sits in and locks in the magnet?
Yeah, rather than trying to make it a perfect friction fit, they put a magnet in there, which is really clever. So, like I said, it's not a toy for everyone. But for me, this is the same thing where I look at it and I can imagine it and I go, oh, this feels like old play school, but with a new cool twist. Like, I could almost imagine this cast in like that light blue plastic that they cast so many things in.
Right.
So there you go. Joyriders Nebula 1 from LK Toys. And this is pretty cool. They include a wooden block.
Oh, so, wow.
Lee and Kaufenberg. And it's, just a wooden block like you would have gotten when you were a kid. It said A, B, C, D.
Cool packing.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's a perfect example of somebody making the thing they want to have. And there may only be 500 people that want that, or 200 people that want that. I don't know. But the 200 people that want that are going to love it.
Right. And that's who they're making it for, themselves and the people for that specific look. Did you ever collect Pogs or play with Pogs?
I'm afraid I was in college when Pogs were a thing.
Yoko recently sent me some stuff, and she has her own branded Livin' La Vida Yoko.
Does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form. The question is, does she have a slammer?
Oh, I believe she's brought them content. I'm not kidding, my case of, we talk about it that often that my slammers are right over there. I
know enough to know what it is, but I did not play with them.
1991 Center Point Mall Pog Champion, right here. None of those words
see, there
mean
you go.
anything to anyone.
1991, I was a junior in college, so I feel really the gray is growing every time I speak now.
It's like nobody was playing Pogs in college.
No,
Ultraman.
there were a lot of different concerns at that point.
Oh yes, of course. Any chance Super 7 might get into role play? Is role play something that you're interested in? Role play products, because there's a lot of licenses that Super 7 has that would make cool role play toys. I don't know if there's any limitations with the license that you have. Obviously, that's
usually they're very, very specific, but usually what we find is that a lot of those categories no one's doing. I think it's when it's the right thing to make. Yeah, it's just more like, oh man, would that be cool? Yeah, then let's do that. So not specific to like, oh, we're going to go into role play as a category. It would be more like, oh, like he had a very specific question that I didn't get something about the bat.
The cool bat pin seems to point slightly that way.
I don't have anything specific for him, but there's a couple things that we've got here and there where it's like, yeah, that's part of that world and it lives in the real world at human scale. Is it like, oh, hey, you've got costumes? No. Or stuff like that. But if it's cool and fun to make, like a long time ago, we were like, oh man, it'd be so cool to scale up the Kenner gun to actual human size. And Gentle Giant did it. And you were like, oh, that would be great. You know? So, yeah, there's stuff out there. It's just, same thing. If it's the right thing to do, then I'm fully for it. I don't try to be completely limited by exactly what we're making.
This is awesome. There's a turtle,
baby turtle,
apple core, general half-eaten food.
Yep.
Fishbone, wrench, tiny magic wand, or large, I don't know, and a dog bone. This is crazy. And they're all in the sprue that's all yellow in the tray that's underneath.
And that's a pretty hefty figure as well.
How did the shoe line, the Monsters one, come about? Because I don't think I've really seen. Well, recently there's like Reebok Power Rangers, but right before that you guys had the Monster stuff. How did that come about?
Obviously, working at Nike, we talked a bunch over the years about trying to do something there, but I hate to say political because that makes it sound wrong, but it's difficult. It's not easy to move through that matrix of getting stuff made there. How it really came about is my good friend Josh Fraser, who's one of the original founders of Toybox DX, which was a website for collecting Japanese toys, along with Alan Yen and a bunch of other great guys. He was a footwear designer for Reebok for years, and he went to Saucony. And when he got to Saucony, we were shooting the breeze about stuff, and I was just, it's a smaller company. It's easier to navigate the matrix. So I was just like, hey, is there any way we could ever do a shoe with you guys? And he was like, I don't know. Let me ask. And they were like, well, what do you have in mind? What are you thinking about doing? And so we presented them the idea of 4 Universal Monsters shoes centered around, 4 different characters, and that we would launch it at San Diego Comic-Con. That was the first wave of shoes. And because I had done footwear design in the past, I was able to, go through and design the whole shoe, how we would do it. Like the Wolfman shoe has pony hair on it, stuff like that. And so it kind of came to them fully finished, and they saw the PR value in it, I guess. So they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then I don't think they or us were prepared at how popular the shoes were. So, we had people camped out more than 24 hours in advance for the shoes, and
it's always a good sign for a shoe launch.
Yep. And the secondary market went crazy, and it wasn't really shoe collectors. And I say that not disparagingly, but shoe collectors aren't usually chasing Saucony the same way they might be chasing a pair of Nikes. This was monster collectors. This was another group of people. And so after that one was super successful, the funny part was we were doing it, and then our clients, partners at Universal were like, "This is so cool! You know, make sure to save a set, 2 sets for us." And then after it launched, everybody at Universal was like, all the executives are like, "Yo, where's my shoes? Where's my shoes?" So we actually had to go back to Saucony and ask them to make a extra promo run just for the executives at Universal. And so that then led to like, okay, well, when are we going to do it again? But if we're going to do a real production run, a bigger run, it's got to run through the normal channels. And footwear design is roughly 2 years from concept start to in hand. So that's why it took 2 more years to get the next wave of the Universal Monster shoes out.
That's awesome. Does that give you a desire to do more other properties on there, other characters?
Yeah, we're talking about a shoe right now with them that is with somebody else that they're working with, it becoming a 3-way collaboration.
Oh.
I'm always into it because I just like making stuff. So hopefully we'll get some chances to make some more shoes, but at the same time, it's also one of those things where it's not their job to become my shoe manufacturer. They have their own agendas and their own things that they want to do. And it was like, we did it. It was very successful. We're talking about possibly working on something else, and we'll see what happens. So
that's very, very cool. That's just awesome, right? The stuff that you've been doing like along the way on your journey, it's like it's coming back. You're able to apply some of that knowledge to the toy side of things now. I think it's just really everything coming together, kind of.
Yeah, and that's why when we talk about this a little bit, and I say like I try not to be just limited to the plastic. Clearly, I love the plastic. That's what we're here talking about, right?
Is this the office or your collection?
This is one of the conference rooms in the office.
Nice. Very cool. Looks like a toy store. I like it.
Yeah, it's it's got bits and pieces of stuff we're working on or stuff that's already come out. I think we try not to keep too much stuff that hasn't come out yet in this room, just so the purpose that it doesn't accidentally end up on the internet someplace.
Oh, something happened like that today on the internet space.
Oh, what happened?
Somebody from Hasbro Star Wars said something. I think it was interpreted that they revealed an item that they weren't supposed to. That was like first thing in the morning. My friend Courtney says, just opened Super7 Bebop, and he is massive. Such a nice figure. Awesome. It's cool because sometimes people, if you're watching this right now and you're unboxing stuff at the same time, if you're on the Instagram, post a picture, tag me at Toying Around. I always love to see what everyone's opening at the same time. But Brian, like we said, you've done all this stuff along the way. Design, then the magazine, toys, apparel. Like these are, I guess, some of your passions, would you say? And it's kind of taken off. Is there other things that you want to do?
I think that's what I always try to instill on us when you talk about the shoes or whatever. Then it's like, what's the best idea? Let's just make cool stuff. A lot of it is plastic because we love the plastic, but it's always not. I'm always looking for the thing what's that other thing what's beyond the plastic? What makes it a little bit more unexpected, a little bit more unique, not that this is any heavy lifting by any stretch of the imagination, like, oh, duh, camo sweatshirt, but it says G.I. Joe. It's pretty, it's not like that's a heavy concept, but it's like, but I can't go buy that. Why not? I should be able to, right? So, we just try to find ways every project to try to, to put in something different, something unexpected. And sometimes it's what might be considered tchotchke stuff by some people, but like, I have a huge affinity for character glassware and Burger King glasses because I had them as a kid. And I always wanted my Tweety glass, to get my water in when I was 5 years old. And I got, the Burger King cups for Empire Strikes Back. Like, so we make glassware quite a lot. And it's not a prestigious item in a lot of ways, but it's like, but how cool is that?
Absolutely.
And that started with the very first, with the Alien launch. We were like, we started with, we want to make the Alien toys. And then when we went to San Diego, we were like, how fucked up would it be if they had made Alien glasses at Burger King? And so we literally made the glasses like it's the chest burster and everything. And we made a little fake display, like, get your, drive-through glassware here. And people loved it. And I was like, oh, this is fun. It's not always about like, yo, street cred, we're going to make a shoe. It's like, nope, we're going to make some dorky stuff because that's what we want. Like there's one coming up for New York Comic-Con. That's another one of those. It's an off the beaten path item. But for me as a collector, I'm just like, I can't believe we got the opportunity to make this and make a twist on it that's never been done. It's pretty amazing. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't care.
Right.
But for me, the fact that we got to work on this particular item is really, really amazing to me as a collector, because it's something that I bought and collected so many times that if I get to put my stamp on it, my twist on it, that's so cool. So cool.
I think is that an advantage of having your own, not only having your own company, but like a smaller boutique style where, you're not just focused about the toys. Like you said multiple times, whatever the cool thing is, I want to do that, so that you can just, if you have an idea, how can we get this done within your resources, your contacts, your partners, and your means?
Yeah, then that's where I kind of elaborated a little bit on before, which is just like, we're in this really unique situation right now where, we've gotten to a decent enough size where we can actually open up doors that most of the time we would never have been able to get open. And so the more doors we continue to open and make more and more unique product that people are excited about, it sort of begats the next opportunity. And I know one of these days it's going to stop. So I'm just trying to do as much within reason as I can while they let me, because I'm still convinced that one of these days everybody's just going to wake up and go, well, that guy's just a nerd. We're not doing that.
We all are.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That toxin is awesome. Awesome.
Look at this box.
How cool is that?
Nothing goes together better than like these colors.
Exactly. It's supposed to be glaring. I was trying to say glaring and garish at the same time, and I came up with glaring. So apparently garing is a thing now. So yeah, it's garishly awesome. It's, it's fluorescent puke. It's amazing.
Yes. What about the sports stuff, the baseball reaction figures, NBA? Are you a sports guy? Are you into those, or did somebody approach Super7 and like, hey, we'd like a different style of...
Where that sort of came from is actually we did get approached, but we got approached a long time ago about baseball. When I say a long time ago, I'm meaning like 4.5 years ago. And it was through a friend of ours, and they were like, hey, MLB is trying to find somebody to make toys again. Nobody's made toys. And they're like, are you interested? And my initial reaction was, not really. I don't know what to do there, but I thought about it a little bit, and what really sort of I came back to is the first thing that I ever collected was baseball cards. I was 7 years old, Christmas 1978, and my uncle for Christmas gave me a box of Topps baseball cards. And I opened them at Christmas. I had them. I would sort them into number order, then I'd sort them into teams, then back into number order, then back into teams, and I'd rubber band them all and whatever. And it was really the first thing I ever collected. And I collected baseball cards off and on throughout my life until sort of high school. Like my first job when I was 14 was sorting cards in a card shop.
Wow.
But that you also have to pair that with the fact that at that time, the most expensive football card on earth was a Walter Payton rookie, and it was worth $5. baseball cards were not what they are now. They
Right.
were not investments. They were not terribly valuable.
Well, you could get like a whole set in like a long box at
for
I don't know,
$19.99. Yeah.
CVS or something, right?
Yeah. It wasn't the same thing. But as collectors, we're all collectors, I assume, at this point. We've all collected different things. So one day when it was just rattling around in the back of my brain, I was like, I'm interested in baseball if I can make it feel like I was collecting baseball cards again. So if you look at the card back designs of the baseball figures we did, they sort of feel like baseball cards. And we have sort of the older version and the more modern version between the two of them. And I was like, that to me feels nostalgic. This feels interesting to me. And then from there, it was sort of the same thing with the NBA. Then the NBA was like, hey, we see what you're doing with the MLB. Would you like to do NBA? And I was like, yeah, I would like to do NBA because, you know, I pay attention a little bit more to the NBA. I'm a Mavericks, growing up in Texas and whatever, most of the time.
Right.
I suffered through many, many years of the Mavericks never being worth a damn. And, you know, even though
Steve Nash fan?
I like Steve Nash all right. I like Nowitzki, you know. Steve Nash is great. Steve Nash just strikes me as a very nice human. I don't exactly get excited like, oh, what's
a very nice Canadian.
Huh?
A very nice Canadian.
But you're all nice. That's so, you know, he's a so I was just like, okay, I like the idea of doing the NBA here. And that's sort of what leads into actually the women's national team that we did. I don't know if you saw that, but we did the U.S. women's national team, the soccer team, which actually I have right over there, just off camera. But when I started working at Nike, like I said, my first project was the MLS logo,
right,
for the league and working on the jerseys. And my second project was literally working on the U.S. women's national team jerseys for the '96 World Cup. Now the jerseys themselves were designed by a guy named Devin Burt, and the graphic lead was a guy named a girl named Candace, blanking on Candace's last name. But then I was working on the U.S. women's national team stuff in '96. I worked on it again for '98 because that's when they switched the years. I worked on it again in 2002, and I worked on it in 2004 for the Olympics, I believe. So I worked on a bunch of women's national team stuff over the years. So when we started talking about making sports figures and making NBA figures, for me personally, I was like, we can't just make the guys. I want to make the girls too. And I have a direct connection with the U.S. women's national team. And I know that there are lots of little kids and little girls that would love to have these figures because this team is actually phenomenal and has been phenomenal. The U.S. has been one of the best teams in the world for 25 years plus now.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't know how many will sell, but I want to make the U.S. women's national team. And I want to be making those toys so that whether it's my daughter or somebody else's daughter goes to a store, I say goes to a store because most of the stuff is sold online. You know, there can be Fernando Tatis, LeBron James, and Megan Rapinoe all in the same line, and they're all on the same level. So I was just, you know, when we got that about a year and a half ago, we started talking about that. I was like, if we can make the women's national team, I want to make the women's national team because I think it's important to make.
Oh, much respect for that move. And it's perfect that you already had some of the connections there to connect to that. And I think another huge thing that toys and hip hop and music go really well together. Biggie recently was up. You had ODB on that card. That was crazy. You know, you said you grew up with all the punk rock magazines and whatnot. Are you into the hip hop realm as well? Is that more?
Yeah, I am. I mean, in a different way. I think the thing when I talk about growing up in punk rock, like I remember when hip hop was coming out, and I say that not as somebody that was in the center of the maelstrom. I was in Texas, so clearly I'm not in New York. I'm not going to a block party. I'm not there. But in terms of like hip hop coming out, I can go back and remember when Sugar Hill Gang was on the radio, because that was the first rap song to ever really go onto the radio.
Yeah.
And then I remember when, LL Cool J came out. I remember when Run DMC came out. I remember when the Beastie Boys came out. Same thing when Slick Rick came out. When those records were coming out, it was this new, exciting, youthful kind of energy. And it was always very interesting. And most of the people I knew that were into punk rock were also into hip hop, but it was sort of like, do you like chocolate or vanilla? And it's like, well, I'm a chocolate guy first, but I like vanilla. Like, I like hip hop. It wasn't really until Public Enemy for me that I got really into hip hop, meaning that Public Enemy, and I heard Public Enemy, I was like, the message behind this, the anger and the energy behind this feels the same as punk rock to me. Like this is that same thing. Like, I'm trying to make you, you have your guys that just want to sing about drinking, whatever. But this is, I'm trying to make you smarter. I'm trying to make you impassioned about something. And I'm pumping up the energy, and we're going to fucking get shit started. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, I really, really got into, Public Enemy and a lot of what was happening on Def Jam at that time, because Def Jam was really interesting because you had, Public Enemy and Slayer on the same label. Mm-hmm. For somebody like me, it was like, that was amazing. Like, these two things are not separate. They can coexist. They can be complementary, not adversarial. And I'm never going to be the guy that's going to be I'm tripping over my own terms, but I'm never going to be the guy that's going to say that I know everything, or I'm an expert, or I'm not. Like, you want to talk to me about punk rock stuff? I can tell you every pressing of every record of everything and where they were and what shows they play. I know it. When it comes to hip hop, I'm much more superficial. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert on it. I'm not going to claim to have this, but I am a fan, and I'm trying to make the things that are interesting to me. And there's a good bit of stuff that comes out. So by just being my age, you were able to be there at sort of the ascent of hip hop into the public mainstream, and what that meant sort of for us. But if you want to ask me, like, what's Del the Funky Homo Sapiens' second record, I'm not going to be able to tell you. Like, I know Deltron 2020 was out there, 3030, but I don't know anything beyond. I'm not going to be that expert.
That's fair. I mean, I just wanted to bring up, it's cool people want like a figure of their art, like a hip hop artist in their collection. That's just the cool part of being able to throw something out there like that.
It's been very interesting because when we started making the music figures, it was just with friends of ours. It started out as Gorilla Biscuits was really the first one we made, and for my era of sort of hardcore, like, that was the first time when bands that were my age, my friends, were becoming the biggest bands. And so in my sort of era, Gorilla Biscuits was the biggest band. And they were peers and friends of mine. And their 7-inch has a cover of a gorilla on it. He looks like a toy. He's a mascot. Let's make a toy of him. Then that worked. And then that sort of led us into a variety of the other bands that we went into, whether it was Anthrax, where Charlie from Anthrax collects toys, or Megadeth, who's good friends with Brian Liu, Slayer. Brian Liu that works here used to work for Slayer. And you just started making things with our friends. And King Diamond, as a perfect example, that was one of the early ones. A friend of mine growing up, Brian Christner, who is one of our entertainment lawyers, actually, turned out to be he was visiting in town, and he's King's lawyer, and we were out to dinner one night, and he kept talking about King, and I was like, which King are you talking about? I thought he was talking about King Coffee from the Butthole Surfers, and he was like, no, King Diamond. I was like, oh shit, King Diamond. How fucked up would it be to make a King Diamond action figure? Because you're talking about the first guy to ever put on the makeup, helped invent what became black metal and everything, and Venom as well. And I was just like, would he let us do it? He's like, I don't know. We can ask him. And then we went to King, and he's older than I am and grew up in Europe. So he didn't play with toys and action figures. So he didn't get it.
Right.
But trust us, it's going to be cool. And then once we made the figure, it was immensely popular, more popular than most everything we had been making at the time.
Wow.
And it was very interesting for him because all of a sudden these people would show up at the concerts with the toys, and they were so excited because it was like, I was a little kid, going into my teen years, and I had my King Diamond record, and I had my Star Wars figures, and these two things are together. And once that happened, he was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Let's make that.
Wow.
And that's just sort of spiraled. And as we moved through all this punk rock and metal stuff, which we're still doing, the obvious question that we came back to was, well, why aren't we making hip hop figures? Why are we only making this side? Can we go on this side? And it's been interesting because there are people that get it, but we've had quite a few people that are just like, why would you make a toy? And they're like, what kid wants to play with this? And you're like, oh no, it's not for kids, it's for adults.
No,
like,
for sure.
Adults? Like, now I'm really not into it.
It's like, I have Batman and I have Biggie. We're gonna play it. Like, no, it's not for that kind of kind of
so
play.
It's been interesting, but the more we make stuff like that, the more it comes out. But that's sort of the same thing. That's how we got into making a figure with Czarface. He's a toy collector, and he's into all the same things we are, and he just sort of reached out.
I felt like that was only natural, the Czarface figure.
Well, the even crazier part of that circle is the guy that does all the artwork for Czarface is a guy named Lamore Supreme. Lamore Supreme is somebody I knew from in the early 2000s, and we made a toy with Lamore Supreme in 2005 called Mongolian. So we knew Lamore from Lamore back when we made toys with him in 2005. And it only turns out, then we meet Czarface, and it's like, oh yeah, well, Lamore's working with Czarface. And it's like, oh, of course Lamore is. Okay, sure. Like, we know everybody. Let's just make some stuff.
Yeah. Because there's, for people who haven't heard, I'm not like an expert, but like there's a lot of hip hop references, or sorry, comic references in that material.
Yes.
I want to get to, I don't want to keep you for too long. I want to get to Joe's real quick. I just want to read some of these super chats that I skipped over earlier. Kirby Kai, thank you so much. My fellow Canadian, he says, Usagi Yojimbo on the Ultimates roadmap? Fingers crossed, praying.
We thought we had Usagi, and it was a mistake on our behalf. We had a contract in place. I thought I had signed it. Apparently I had forgot to sign it. And so then we didn't talk to him for like 6 months because we were, working on stuff. And then when we went back, and then we went to, it was actually something where I think I was talking to the Fwoosh, and I said, oh yeah, Usagi Yojimbo's in the next wave. And like in an hour later, I got an email from them going, hey, we heard you say Usagi Yojimbo's in the next wave, but we never signed a contract. And I was like, I thought we signed it. And they're like, no, you never signed it. And we've since signed an animation deal, and we can't license the toys right now. And I'm like, oh crap. So you can blame me directly for the fact that I can't get Usagi Yojimbo right now, but that doesn't mean that we're not having open dialogue to hopefully have it again in the future.
But there's animation. Cool.
They have an animation deal. That doesn't mean they have an animation show, and I don't want to speak for them.
Cool. I mean, you didn't have to say any of that, but appreciate the candidness of it.
Yeah.
Also,
I fucked that one up.
someone clip that into a GIF, please. Elias Makari says, how do you go about negotiating a good license deal with companies like, yeah, I don't think Brian's really going to give you a master class right now here on toying around on negotiating a good license deal.
Well, I mean, I think the first and foremost is you're not going to get a licensing deal with Disney or Hasbro until you've established yourself with other licenses, like sort of like building up. Like Hasbro and Disney are sort of like Division 1. So I had to play really good ball in junior high that got me onto a good high school team that got me into a good college team that then got me to Division 1. So
Right.
For us, it's starting small, executing well, having good product in the market, having people like what you're doing, and then slowly working our way up to those people. But even then at that point, you're still like getting in the ground floor with them. It's not like I can do anything I want with Disney. I have very, very specific little areas I can work in.
Build your name up. Finally, your huge thing today, you're wearing some apparel from G.I. Joe. Before I let you go, I'm sure people have some questions. When I did the Power Rangers interview with Kyle earlier in the day, it was just renders that were shown, and Kyle was able to give more insight about some articulation stuff on the figures. It's like you can see it, but the Yellow Ranger or all of them had the diaphragm swivel, but then like the ball joint at the waist. That's okay. We don't need my picture then. That's perfect.
Yeah. So I have real ones, if that's what you're, and I'm trying to like skew it to make it square in your frame, and it's not working.
It's all good.
Yeah, no, but these are done. We're just waiting for them to get off boats.
It's always good to see toys on cards. That means they're not far off. These ones will be available soon.
That's why in that video I'm holding just card backs with loose figures, because I didn't have the final sample yet at that point. Whoa,
right.
Bonking it around. Like, this one's my favorite. Oh, wait, right here. Quinn. Like, man, G.I. Joe issue 2, Quinn. Here we go. And then this Scarlet came out. Amazing. I was really concerned, there we go, with how we were making sure to properly get the stars and the band around her gloves properly, because it was always drove me crazy as a kid that it wasn't correct on the figure. So it's like,
do you, as the head of the company, I assume you could get 2 sets for yourself if you really wanted to play with it, because these reaction figures in all of your box art, I mean, they look so good. You obviously put a lot of effort into who you get to work on it. It broke my heart to open the Reaction Power Rangers ones on the Power Morphicon stream. It was even harder to throw them out on recycling day. Do you, if you were to get one set, would you open, or would you have them for display for those?
See, I would,
one of us common folks.
See, I'm that guy that then takes the X-Acto blade and goes around the edge of the bubble so I can slide it out.
Okay. Yeah, third option, definitely.
And have the figure out and then put it back in if I need to. Because if you tear the bubble and then the artwork gets ripped and everything, it's like, oh God, like, oh. Because I mean, I don't know about you. As a kid, I had a stack of backing cards with ripped bubbles.
Yeah.
From the toys. It was like, that was just as much something I kept as the toy itself. So the packaging and the backing cards are just as important.
Oh, for sure.
Look at Luke. Geez, Flynn, you're still on here. I need to catch up with you. Shout out to Luke Martinez.
Yeah, Yoko wanted me to highlight that message. And as a kid, we wouldn't.
Yoko, you tell Luke I will call him in as soon as I'm done.
We're just gonna go through the Joe stuff real quick, and Luke, he's all yours. But as a kid, you wouldn't be given the scalpel to surgically remove your toys.
No, as a kid, I ripped them off. But as an adult, if I only had one set, I would cut it open and keep it.
The reaction stuff, again, this stuff looks great. You have for wave 1 and crazy amount of figures. If people haven't watched, Brian had an interview with the Floosh earlier today that was released for a more extensive look. Make sure you check that video out after this, obviously. And But what can you say about this wave one, which has however many of these variations, which is
Well, I mean,
rather
technically
impressive.
speaking, the way that I'm talking about it is that there's only 8 figures.
Right.
There are 4 Joes, 4 Cobras. There's 3 regular figures plus an army builder in the Joe and in Cobra. The green shirts for G.I. Joe, and those come in 3 skin tones, sort of a pink, a tan, and a brown. So, if it was the army, that's what you would get. So if you are an army builder, you can get a variety of figures and make a big army. But if you're just a guy collecting G.I. Joe, you really only need one. Pick the one you want. No one is rarer, more common, than the other. Just grab the color you want, have that one. That's all you need. I'm not trying to force you to buy extras. And then same thing when you're talking about the Cobra Troopers, if you watch the animation on the back side of their harnesses, they either came down in an H or they came down in a Y. So we made them with both options and then in all 3 skin tones. So technically there are 6 versions of those if you are the army builder guy. If you're not, for all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. So just grab the one you need. So for me, I'm like, there's really only 8 figures. But if you're the guy that wants to army build, I'm giving you the variety within there to really make your army look good.
I think it's really cool. When you army build some stuff, you don't want every single one to look the same. But at the same time, having the different complexions, that's cool way to add representation in there into the figures. That's awesome. These are well, before we forget, there's apparel, there's a enamel pin, which I'm rather intrigued for, with the bat chest piece here, and you've got one right there. These are prototypes, I'm assuming, that don't move.
Not really. Yeah, this. I mean, I might be able to get a little bit out of these, but these are painted, sanded outputs and everything else like this. This is for final, making sure everything's correct proportionally and making a color guide and how it's painted for the factory. But yeah, that shoulder's glued in place. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I've spoken to Johnny. I don't know if you know his real name. He probably refers to himself as Sergeant Bananas around the workplace.
Yeah, that's, I have to say, what's up with Bananas today?
And sometimes he's told me, like, a lot of people crap on stock photos or press photos because the poses are so bad. He's like, a lot of the times we just get these prototypes that don't have the articulation. They're literally just pieced together for photos. So,
Yep. Yeah, Johnny will literally oftentimes have to break every single joint and glue it into place to make it. It's not what it can't articulate to, but it's like what he's been given is a static piece.
Right.
So really you're breaking it and re-gluing it into position. And
yeah, I mean, I used to laugh at that a lot. Like some photos, any company, just like, why would, so-and-so be posed like this? And it takes talking to somebody from behind the scenes to know, like, hey, these aren't full. And this is kind of why I do this. And I say it all the time. It's for very selfish reasons. I like to speak to somebody in the industry so I can learn these things for myself. If anyone here is watching and gets a kick out of it, then that makes me happy too.
So same thing, like, the reality is his leg is not attached,
But I mean, you've done a Silverhawks reveal, which was just renders. You have these prototypes with paint. Is it safe to say these are a lot further along than?
Yeah. We're further ahead on these. These are already at the factory getting going. We're trying to get further and further ahead. In the past, we weren't sure if there would be enough people that would buy it, so we couldn't start the process until after we did the pre-order.
Right.
In a case like G.I. Joe and where we're at now, I felt very confident that we were going to get enough orders, so we're going ahead and getting started. But if we were waiting for painted test shots and deco, that's 6-7 months from now.
Yeah.
So, obviously we're trying to get this started. And at the same time, that back to that same conversation, how many should we make? If I just arbitrarily had made a number, what if I guessed 50% too little? Or what if I guessed 50% too many? That's not what you as a collector want to happen. So by doing a pre-order, we can be very specific. Like we know exactly how many need to be had. And by giving you a month, you have plenty of time. Like if you needed to wait till next paycheck or do whatever, like there's no issue with you getting them. I'm not preventing you from buying them. So hopefully it keeps it, it keeps it to where everybody has a fair chance to get the toys if they want them and have fun with it.
Wait till SDCC month is over, and then hopefully get it after that.
Yeah.
But all these look great. Is it the same? Is it Four Horse? I know Four Horsemen does a lot of your other stuff. Is it them as well for this, or
no? This is a quite a few. We're working with quite a few different people doing different parts and sort of assembling it together.
Cool. Vern's Hobbies, thank you for the super chat. He says, thanks for dropping by, Brian. But it's not dropping by. He's here. He's sitting down. It's not like a, but yes, thank you. I do appreciate the sentiment. Keep on.
I think he means keep on keeping on.
Vern.
Yeah. Keep on keeping on. There you go. Thank you. I'm trying to keep on.
And yeah, I mean, these are available for pre-order on super7.com right now. The reaction figures are dropping September, Yoko mentioned.
September, they will be in hand. And so I will say that, which is obviously we had to make a number. So come September, if for some reason they magically go faster than we expected, we'll make more. We'll make more. Don't get crazy. Don't go chasing them down and paying outrageous prices on the secondary market. If for some reason we under committed, we'll go make more.
And this dude right here, the bat, Cobra bat. How tall is he going to be?
He's about half an inch to 5/8 inch taller than everybody else. So he stands up a good bit taller than everybody else because he's supposed to be bigger.
And this is incredible. Your regular head, cracked helmet face with the electricity coming out, or decapitated mode. This is a lot of variation. It's awesome.
It's supposed to be fun. That's the goal, right? Yeah. This is the head with the bullet hole in it, and then you can put this isn't the right one, but you can put the inside of it.
Awesome.
Short circuit on the Cobra bat.
The arm hanging off. Well, like I said earlier, when I spoke with Kyle for the Power Ranger stuff, some stuff articulation we couldn't tell just from the digital renders and stuff. Is there? And what I appreciate about the lines, like you always say, we hide the cuts and the articulation where it makes sense and where you can't see it. So for something that was like on Goldar, I didn't know where anything was because, and that's I get it.
So like, for him, you can't have an ab crunch because of his clear chest cavity. So instead we'll hide a rocker sort of swivel waist inside where his belt line is.
Perfect. That's the kind of stuff you don't see off the bat, just from pictures. And
no pun intended.
Oh shoot. Good. I didn't do that. It wasn't intended at all. But and you don't see it from the press photos, and that makes sense because that's kind of your goal. Hide it where you can. So, before I let you go, what I've always said to people, how I approach Super7 toys, it's like I'm not buying my Ultimates Ninja Turtles because it's the most articulated figure for that character. I'm buying it because I approach it like a designer toy piece. I'm going for the aesthetic, and having spoken with Kyle and seeing a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about, like, yes, you're doing it because you don't want to break the image or the outline. It just makes sense, hiding all the articulation. I think you put it a lot more eloquently than I ever do, but that's just what I try to help people keep an open mind with for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's our take on it. And there's going to be another company and another person that has a different take on it. And neither approach is more valid than the other. And there's room for everybody in this.
Yeah. You can't make everybody happy. You can say, you can maybe go a Mezco route and hide all the joints underneath soft goods, but then there's limitations to those. So it's which way do you choose? Somebody's going to be upset with something else.
Yes.
But you seem to be you get to make what you want, what you're looking for. Obviously with a team of awesome people and listening to everyone's feedback. And I think everything is fantastic, and I'm really happy that I got to speak to you like this one-on-one. Did you open everything you wanted to?
Yeah, I opened up my Spanish Shogun. I opened up my daughter's Funko figure because nobody else made anything for Gravity Falls, which is a great show, even if you're a big kid. Like that's actually really cool. And then this thing, the Nebula One. Like
he's a crab.
He is Professor Zero Xanthem. He's a Delphinian fire bristle, and he's one angry plant.
He's a plant.
He is an angry plant.
He kind of reminds me of Zoidberg a little from Futurama.
Yeah.
Let's see. Everyone in the chat, thank you for still being here. They're all very thankful to you for your interview and all the information you've given. E-Collectible says, great Flinterview. Have a great night. Thanks.
Well played. It's pun time now. Nice.
Yoko is going to be using that for future copy and whatnot. Someone just... Yeah, that's perfect. You might have to get a license for that, Yoko. But Brian, thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me, and good luck next Thursday.
Good luck next. Thank you. It's everyone, thank you for watching. This is the Toying Around month 31 days of content. Hopefully you'll find something here that's for you, and I've been gonna keep grinding. We'll be back tomorrow at 4:30 here on the channel and on Twitch, talking about some Marvel reveals for tomorrow. Have you seen Black Widow?
I have.
What did you think of it?
Oh, I thought we were wrapping up. We'll be here for another half hour.
Okay, next we'll schedule something else. We'll
do that. We'll do that at a separate time.
Oh, if Yoko has a My Little Pony theory for you, just run. You don't want to hear it.
Actually, if Yoko has a My Little Pony interview, I need to get Yoko and my daughter together, and my daughter's theory is going to crush anything Yoko has. Because you have no idea how crazy deep my daughter is on that, and she has continuity things. She's got crazy shit. She is so ponied out, it's insane.
What have you done?
Yep, that's it. I've ruined it. All right.
Thank you for your time. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a good night and keep toying around. Peace.
Take care.